Hi there, this is my channel, Yaru Walks. In the year 2024, I will embark on an epic walking journey across the United States. I plan to hike 8,000 miles and to cross the US 3 times, via the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, and Continental Divide Trail. In the hiking world, this is known as a calendar year Triple Crown and has been completed by only a handful of hikers in history. The calendar year Triple Crown has traditionally been completed by jumping within or between the trails throughout the year, primarily to avoid snow, but also to avoid other seasonal hazards such as floods, extreme desert heat, and wildfires. For my attempt, I'm trying to hike each trail on a continuous, unbroken, end-to-end footpath, and to accomplish this, I must hike across all 4 seasons. I will be posting weekly updates along the way, so you can join me for the journey. Wish me luck.
So I don't know if I'm audible or not because it's so windy, but I'm walking along. Further back I saw this giant cloud up here. I thought that's a strange looking cloud. Straight ahead. And then as I looked at it, can you explain what you're eating real quick?
Slop.
Yeah, it's the kind of the peak hiking season right now.
Yeah. It started kind of late, or I mean, I did that. Yeah. It's super fast. It's different.
Last time I was down here was April. It was for opening season of trout fishing, and that's when I was doing the summit again, and I ran into like 8 foot of snow, and I couldn't get past it.
Alrighty, I'm hiking out of Sierra City with Squirrel Bait behind me, and I asked him if he'd be willing to share the story behind his trail name, just because Squirrel Bait is, in my opinion, an excellent trail name. He said he'd be happy to. So where are you from, first off?
Yeah, okay, so I'm from Slovakia, living actually in Czech Republic. I'm hiking PCT first time, my first true hike in my life, quite big one. And my trail name is Squirrel Bait because the squirrels actually ate my t-shirt.
We gotta pause real quick.
Like these holes, I actually get like sunburn through these holes. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the squirrels just like me. They ate my backpack, they ate my straps, they ate my t-shirt. So yeah, that's the story behind my shirt.
That's awesome.
I mean, the fire is that way, so...
It really looks like a cloud, but there are no other clouds, so it makes me think it's the fire. But that's... yeah. I can't tell. I think it's a cloud. I think as we keep hiking, we're gonna figure out if it's a fire or not. People set up a tent on the trail. Something about it felt off though. And I was like, I don't know that that's trail magic, but it might be. And then I asked the guy, he's like, oh no, it's the running club. And they have all these bananas, Coca-Colas, all these things set out specifically for a running club with a tent they set up over the trail, but it's not for PCT hikers. Oh my God. So that's the air quality index for where we're trying to go. And we're roughly, is that .U?
Yep.
53? Okay. Hold on. And then, let me zoom in. I'm guessing dark purple is awful.
That's 500. That's like instant lung cancer.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you just collapse with lung cancer.
That's smoke inhalation.
Yeah, yeah.
If this was like North Cascades or even the Cascades.
Okay, so a quick trail update. Somewhere back there in the last big hill, there was cell service, and a group of hikers bunched up. And then as more hikers came through, more and more bunched up on the trail. And basically we got cell service there, and my phone went ping, ping, ping from other hikers who are ahead on the trail, letting me know that there's a trail closure starting in 50 miles. So off in the distance, for the last couple of days, I've been filming what is a fire. I don't know if it's the same fire as what's ahead, but a new fire just broke out just a few days ago. The rumor mill backstory from other hikers is that some guy who is convicted or charged with child molestation of some kind, you know, something like that kind of a crime, was told to turn himself in, and rather than turn himself in, he drove his car off over to a cliff. And I don't think that he drove off the cliff in the car. He just like drove, like let the car run off of a cliff. Then it exploded, caught trees on fire. And now there are actually heavy winds today. And that fire has been doubling in size for the last couple of days. And so out of what I suspect to be an overabundance of caution, the trail has been closed for a 100-mile segment starting 50 miles ahead. So if I had just been 2 days down the trail, I would have been in the smoke zone. And I don't know if they would have ushered me off the trail further down, because I do know of one hiker who's currently in that section, the smoke section, and is hiking through. He got through before they closed it. And then back in that group huddle, someone was saying they knew of a Croatian hiker who is an actual firefighter in his profession, who he hiked into it. And this is independent of the trail being closed down. He actually had an I think it's called N95 mask. And then he had to back out. He literally backtracked back out because it was so smoky. So back as of that hill was trying to figure out a game plan. There's no official roadwalk detour. And so when I hit the next town in 2 days, that's where the trail closes. So I'll have to hop on Wi-Fi and see if I can map out my own trail detour. But this fire is so bad that every single other hiker that I talk to, their plans are to hop in a bus, hop in a Trail Angel car, hitch a ride around the fire. No one knows how they're going to do it yet, but I've talked to maybe 7 hikers. 7 for 7 so far are shuttling around it, just to emphasize it's a big, bad fire. So the sun is totally filmable right now, dead on with camera, without blowing the shot out. And that is because I'm just now beginning to enter into the haze of the, I think it's the Park fire. It's either the Shelley or the Park fire. I was wondering where it would start, and it's already here.
This is the other thing. This is the other
So you can kind of see off in the distance what is a really spectacular view. I think that I have a smoke cloud layer way up in the atmosphere above me, but at the level I'm at, I'm not breathing in or smelling any smoke right now. But then off in the distance, you can see lower in the atmosphere, the sun setting off to the right, and the light is all scattering in the smoke particles just off the ground, but I think it's just kind of trapped beneath this smoke layer. So it's just creating kind of, like for me, there's so much more depth to this image when I look with my eyes. But you can see way off back in the distance, it kind of starts to blow out when I zoom in. But if I leave it about here, you can see off in the distance, like in the orange light, there are more and more mountain ranges out there. And so I'm able to look into that orange light and it looks almost like a Martian landscape. So one of the coolest sunsets I've ever seen. This kind of shows it, like a little bit better view, but this is the craziest sunset I have ever seen in my life. It's now the meanest looking sunset I've ever seen. It's this gradient from yellow to orange to red. And as you look further off, it just turns to gray into the smoke. So this is actually the trail. The forest fire, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain this. I'm assuming because of the forest fire, this area was shut off for a while and then it got overgrown or something. And then they reopened it, but didn't do any trail maintenance. Now it's like completely overgrown. Hiking Maine was still harder than this. But this is about as bad as I've seen on the PCT. There were some people on the hiking app Far Out warning saying, don't go ahead, go down to this road. I think their warnings were relatively warranted, but I feel like if you're through hiking to Canada, you should probably be able to hike through this. Crossing the Middle Fork River now. Pretty green color. Already, I'm at the road that is kind of a junction. To the right is Quincy. To the left is Bucks Lake, which is a tiny town. And then the PCT continues somewhere right over here. And then where it's closed off for the fire is just right ahead, maybe like a mile or two ahead. So everybody that I've talked to in the last 3 days, when they reach this road, is going to the right to Quincy. Where they're going to somehow get a hitch around a 100-mile detour. I'm sure the road route is longer than 100 miles, but the trail closed section up here is 100 miles long. They're going to take a bus around to, I think it's called Burney is the town. I'm not really sure. And then to the left here is Bucks Lake. So if this were a normal day where the PCT were open, I think most people would actually be going to Bucks Lake to get a quick resupply because it's only like 1.5 miles, 2 miles down this road and then on. Whereas Quincy is like you have to hitch to it. So it's like, I don't know, 8 or 10 miles that way. And so there's a big bunch of people back there, basically 5 miles back who I was hanging out with tonight. And then maybe 10 miles back. And both of those groups, I'm certain, will be here early, first thing in the morning. Their intention being to put their thumb out right here and hitch a ride out to Quincy. Maybe get food there, and then organize a trail angel to take them 100 miles ahead somehow on trail. No one has any idea how they're going to do it. I'm not clear yet on what my plan is. Tomorrow I'm hoping to have Wi-Fi, but I'm going to Bucks Lake. I'm not hitching off to Quincy. I want to figure out a plan for how I can hike ahead, hopefully through the 100-mile zone that's closed, but I guess maybe not on the trail. I'm going to explore and see if there's a way for me to bushwhack or to hike an alternate trail or to road walk. And it's one of those things where you really need Wi-Fi and to put in a thorough amount of time planning, because 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours spent planning the most concise route is something that will save you 10 hours, 20 hours of walking, or guide you in another direction that's safer than trying to find your own route through a closed off section of trail. So I'm very not clear on what lies ahead in terms of like where the trail is closed. My phone battery is also low right now, so I'll probably talk more about that tomorrow morning.
No walking people, they like to grab you and take you home and introduce you to their daughter.
Yeah. That sounds like a great state.
They weren't bad if you came to see your daughter.
What year was that?
I'm 90, almost 90.
Yeah.
So it's about 70 years ago.
Okay. Wow. So 1954-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, 54, 55.
And then you lived in San
I graduated in 54, so it's
okay.
55.
That's cool. And so then, when did you live? So you were in San Francisco too?
Huh?
You were in San Francisco?
I was born and raised in Tennessee.
Okay, but
I got stuck out there.
But you lived in San Francisco at some point.
I got stuck out there in the military.
Yeah.
You lived in the Bay Area for a while.
Nice.
And they put me on the USS Vesuvius. Had a lot of. It didn't have any fire control on it.
But see, you were lucky. You were between wars.
So I read online last night, I got here at like 11 p.m. or something, that outlet works, but it runs slowly. So I let this run overnight. I left my phone charging here for like an hour and it was at like 10% and it only went up to 34%. So it was true that is like the world's slowest charger and it looks like it. And so, but my power bank's fully charged over the last 8 hours. So that was unbelievably clutch. So I think this is the Lakeshore Resort where I can get Wi-Fi.
So I took them down there and then somebody else wanted to come back. I ended up going up and down the mountain like 4 times. Like, okay.
Well, we appreciate it.
Oh. This used to be a big hippie town.
Is that right?
Back in the day, yeah. Back when I was one.
When you were one?
When I was one.
So I'm in this hardware store and I'm looking at all their masks. And so something that's actually really important about masks is they're all rated to different standards. And what you would want for smoke particulates, which are much finer and smaller than, for example, dust. So if you came in and you were like, kind of like panic buying something, you would just buy this mask because it is a mask, right? But the particulate like diameter of a smoke particle is going through that mask. The mask, when you look down at the permeability or the, I don't know, I want to say pore space, but just the gap space in that weaving is like massive compared to the size of a smoke particle. So, you know, like during COVID, there was a lot of freak out purchasing of different masks and whatnot. But when you get down to the actual size of like the particles that we're talking about, it's almost laughable that someone would buy one of these. It makes you emotionally feel better, but they don't actually protect you at all. Even these masks here wouldn't protect you. And so the one that you would want would be an N95, which for hazardous smoke conditions, wildfire smoke, an N95 would actually block out 95% of particles, smoke particles that are in the air, but they're completely out of it. And you can see that some people knew what they were doing when they came here, and that's why a bunch of these are still left. But around the corner, I found, hidden elsewhere, these Milwaukee masks, which are N95 and NIOSH certified. Alrighty, now I need to get 8,000 calories of food, which will get me to Chester. All right, I just got dropped off by Outside Jay, who is an epic trail angel. Alrighty. I'm at Buck Summit Trailhead. This sign says PCT northbound closed. The PCT is closed from Buck Summit north to Old Station due to evacuation warnings related to the Park Fire. Please see the PCTA app or website. Marked by the U.S. Forest Service. So, trail register. All right, there's my entry. 7:30 at 12:05 a.m. Gonna race this fire via the side roads to keep this footpath continuous. Good luck to all. Okay, so I'm currently walking towards Quincy, California. My destination for today is Chester. However, I guess I'll start with a recap of the last couple of days. So I think it was 3 days ago in the evening, I'm walking north, as always. Looking off to the northwest, there's just a giant plume of smoke, but I wasn't sure at the time if it was clouds or if I was actually seeing smoke. It didn't make sense that it was smoke because it looked like someone had dropped, like, not an atom bomb, but like, you know, it was probably several miles wide and incredibly thick, as if some massive fire had started. And it didn't make sense because there's another fire further down the trail, which I know is the Etna fire. It might be called the Shelley fire, down the Pacific Crest Trail. But I hadn't heard of any fires right ahead on trail, but that was such a big smoke cloud that you would think you would have heard about it. So over the next day or so, I conferred with other hikers. Is that the Shelley or the Etna fire? Everyone said, no, that should be further up. That shouldn't be visible yet. That's exactly what I thought too. No one really thought too much about it. And then as of a day and a half ago, I think, or maybe 2 days ago, I broach a hill, and there's a good number of hikers jammed up on the top of this hill. They're all jammed up because there's cell service there. We only get cell service maybe every couple of days. And so when you do, you get updates from the outside world. And I turned my phone on, I got ping, 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 a couple of messages from some hikers further down the trail who said, hey, FYI, this just happened like hours ago, but the trail's closed for 100 miles, starting 40 miles ahead, or 50 miles ahead. That's strange. Why is the trail closed for 100 miles? So to put it into perspective, there are 4 or 5 fires raging on the Pacific Crest Trail in Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, all of which are normal. But the closures for those sections are all like 25, 35 miles, not 100 miles. I mean, like, to close down a 100-mile stretch of the trail, the fire would need to be massive. And fires that are that large typically take like 2 to 3 months to burn that amount of mileage. I mean, we're talking like 100 miles of a fire. Just think about that. So anyway, little more bits of information start to trickle in at the next hilltop, that some man pushed a car off a cliff. This is just the rumor mill. I don't even have all the details yet, but this is 90% accurate. Which then led to a fire or an explosion of some type, which then caught the Tahoe National Forest on fire. I started asking people, well, and I've already got ideas in my mind, but I want to know what other people think, you know, but what's everyone else thinking? The other people who are around me on the trail. I probably talked to 20 hikers over the next couple of days, and every single person's plan was the same: to walk up to one of 2 roads. I'm on one of those 2 roads. Both lead into the town of Quincy, California, and to hitchhike into Quincy, get internet, and then coordinate with what we call people who we call trail angels online via Facebook or otherwise, to coordinate shuttles to migrate around the 100-mile closure of this trail, which is kind of unprecedented again. Such a large closure in such a short amount of time. Well, I'm currently on a 7,500 mile walk this year. I'm on mile 3,500 of that walk approximately. And for the entire duration of that walk, I stuck true to the Appalachian Trail, hiking through all of winter, January 23rd to I think it was June 2nd that I finished. I've hiked true to the PCT through the desert I was the last person to start the Pacific Crest Trail this year in what is one of the hottest months of the summer. And I stuck to the course of the trail. And so in my mind, if I were to shuttle around this fire, I am breaking with my kind of mission for the year and what is like almost to me a beautiful project. Now, there are people out there who are the CYAers who would just at face value, without any facts, say, this is silly, this is stupid, you should just shuttle around. Well, in my worldview, you know, you kind of have to have your facts in a line before you get to have an opinion. I know that's not how the world works, but for me to listen to your opinion, if you don't have any facts and you've already got all the answers, it's hard to take your opinion seriously. Like, I currently have people giving me feedback on videos that just got uploaded like yesterday. Like, I'm here now, but the actual video got uploaded yesterday saying like, it's a fact that I'm going to get bitten by a snake in the Mojave Desert in Southern California. Well, I'm like 1,000 miles ahead of where I was when that video took place. And I can assure you, I've been out of the Mojave Desert for nearly a month, and I did not get bitten by a rattlesnake. So this is just a small side example of what I'm referring to, but I can already anticipate the feedback that I will receive for the decisions that I'm making. And I would just say there are a lot of facts that I am aware of about my body and my abilities and about what's going on. And so anyway, that's just to head that off before it gets started. And so I arrive at the road. To make the story shorter, I make my way into Quincy, where I get cell service yesterday, and I spend about 4 hours doing research on the fire. And so the research that I'm doing is it's not that I'm turning to the news. I'm not talking to other hikers. I'm not, other than hikers who are ahead on trail. I'm not going to the typical news sources. I'm just trying to go to the raw data to establish a timeline of when the fire started, where it's progressed, where I am in relation to the fire, what road alternates exist parallel to the Pacific Crest Trail to see if there's another viable route, you know, and if I decide that I need to shuttle around the fire, I already know that it's just a matter of 12 to 24 hours before I can get that arranged. That's not really a problem. If 30 other people can do it, then I can do it, you know, likewise within a couple of hours, get that arranged. And so what I want to know is, literally, is there any footpath that could be walked equivalent distance to this trail through the same approximate terrain to get around the fire and around, more specifically, the closure? But before I can look at those alternates, number one is I have to study this fire and make sense of like what is going on. So here's where it gets interesting. As of right now, that fire started 6 days ago. And in those 6 days, the fire marched from just north of Chico, California, 50 miles north in the first 5 days. So 10 miles north per day. And then on its sides, at its widest, the fire was 15, 20 miles wide in the center. And as you go out towards the front and back, you know, to where it started, it's maybe like 10 miles wide. So it's moving north a lot faster, 50 miles in 5 days, than it is moving east and west. Because the fire is, as we imagine it, it starts out somewhere and then it spreads in like a circle, right? Well, no, fires actually grow typically in the shape of an ellipse, which I think most people conceive of as an oval. I'm gonna let this car pass. So it's possible to be behind a fire. It's possible to be in front of a fire. It's also possible to be to the side of a fire or perpendicular to a fire. You're relatively safe when you're perpendicular to a fire, and you're very safe when you're behind a fire. So imagine a wave in the ocean. You see all those surfers out there when those big waves are crashing. If you get behind the wave, you're safe. If you're beside the wave, you're not as safe as you are when you're behind the wave, but you are still pretty safe. You're not safe when you're in front of the wave. The same thing goes for tornadoes. People are fearful and don't understand how people chase tornadoes. Well, the prevailing wind patterns in the United States always move to the northeast. So if you stay to the southwest of a tornado, you can just follow it like it's a wave in front of you. It's not dangerous. I mean, seriously, if you go look at the history of tornado paths, they always move like that, at least in the center of the United States. And I would venture to say all over the United States, because the prevailing wind patterns in the United States, due to the rotation of the earth, the Coriolis effect, always move, nearly always move to the northeast. And so I'm just saying, statistically, at least, you're pretty darn safe relative to what you would assume if you are behind a fire, rather than in the path that the wind is traveling, is what I'm saying. So if you hear about a fire, it's really important to know, where am I in relation to the direction that the ellipse or the oval of the fire shape is marching in? If you're downstream of the fire, you better get worried about smoke. You better get worried about getting your stuff in line. So I want to know, when I'm looking at this fire, am I in the path of it? Am I beside it? Am I behind it? The answer is, where I am standing then last night in Quincy, which is further down this trail, I was directly perpendicular or beside to the point of origin of that fire, which is a relatively safe position, and I was about 20 to 30 miles east of it. So where I am, I'm safe. Now I'm looking ahead as far as where the Pacific Crest Trail goes. Well, it parallels the path of the fire, and that fire has traveled 50 miles forward in 5 days, and it's 20 miles wide. So 50 times 20, maybe not times 20, it's called 50 times 100, sorry, 50 times 10 is 500 square miles that this fire has burned, which is a massive area. And the reports are that it's burned 370,000 acres. So I always find it baffling why they report fire size in acres, because no one on earth can conceptualize or, put an image in their head that, is clear and shows like how big an actual acre is. And then if you're ever confused on it, 1 square mile, so if you did call that 1 mile, that 1 mile, and we're looking at it as the bird's eye point of view, that's 1 square mile if you have a square mile on each side. So there are 640 acres in a square mile. So just imagine like a checkerboard with 640 squares in it in a mile. So 370,000 acres, can you picture that? Yeah, I can't either. It's a horrible metric because it's not a metric we use in everyday life, and it's too small of a fraction of an area to like then convey an image in your head. And so I think that they do that because they want to emphasize a large number, because the intention is to kind of, present alarm or fear around this fire to garner more attention on the fire, which I don't know. Maybe that's the ends justify the means on that. I don't know. I find it annoying though. I wish they would report it in square miles. So we have a large fire, but my next question is, how big is this fire relative to historical fires? So I look up the largest fires in California state history. The largest fire in California state history was, I think, called the August Complex Fire. It originated from 38 original ignition sources. Got a big truck coming. 38 original ignition sources. The sides of these little back roads back here are just littered with these cans that look like they go back like 100 years or more. So this forest is just covered with these little like territorial yellow jackets. They don't sting you or anything. They just buzz like helicopters stationary. And then they can clearly see you. And when you get close, they just fly off, just eject like a rocket. There are two right here. All right, it's definitely getting bushier now. And I'm on a tilt about that angle. Hard to see from the camera. But hopefully at some point I'm gonna break through this and find a trail. Some kind of a road. I'm truly in the middle of nowhere right now. Just to emphasize though, look, the cans are right here. Isn't that funny? There was somebody else bushwhacking out here 100 years ago. Right where I am. Probably a lot of people. Still bushwhacking. And the bushes are getting bigger. Still have not intersected with that road yet. Bushwhacking uphill is not fun. Actually, it is kind of fun, but it's also not fun. It's incredibly slow. Oh. I'm working my way down this rock slide. It goes all the way down to the bottom of this. Well, I don't know where the rock slide goes, but hopefully it goes all the way down to the bottom of this canyon. But the slope of the mountain here is just a little less steeper than it is to the left or to the right. And with these rocks, I just know from experience, they have amazing traction. So I'm just going to kind of surf these down and hope that it continues all the way down. And then down there should be a river, according to the map. And then anytime you have a canyon like this, like all the water would hypothetically flow down there. So that'll give me an ability to refill my water coffers, because I'm down to 1 bottle now, 1 liter. And then once I get down there, I think that there's a road that runs from here and then around the base of this large mountain. So I'm not sure if I'll try to go up and over that mountain, which would be a shorter distance, or if I'll take the road around it. I'll just figure that out once I get down there, I think. This is kind of fun. This is giving me flashbacks to elevation, AT elevation grade. So this is at eye level, and then that's looking up when I'm coming down right now. So almost as steep as the White Mountains.
All right, I can see the road down there that I'm trying to get to. I'm just trying to find a section that's not as steep as what I'm looking at right here. There's the road.
Pretty steep. Just climbed down the face of that. That's crazy. Can you see the smoke now? I have about 6 more turns to go, and then I'll be going, I think, at that point up, and then we'll see, maybe into the smoke. It's kind of a wide angle view for you. So also to be clear, I would be walking on the road, but this shoulder was so narrow looking that it seemed more dangerous than what I'm doing. Although I actually love walking on train tracks. Not that I ever do it, but it is sketchy. And so I really wouldn't be doing this if there were room on that shoulder over there to be walking. But I'm almost to my turn off. But look at that. Plenty of room. It's a pretty good draft. The wind's blowing right my direction. Then again, it is a draft or it's not, so. Got that view. The smoke is literally wafting in right over my head. You can see it coming in like a fog bank. Actually seeing this sign, it says mining claim, and as I came up over the train tracks, there's a guy hanging out in a trailer over there. And so I'm connecting some dots, just, quite possibly. So I was wondering what he was doing. And so there's make, you know, like dozers and backhoes and whatnot over there. And then there's a kind of a, looks like a dug up sandbar over there. And as I've been coming along the river, there have been names of different bars, I guess sandbars, and they're federal mining claims, but you're only allowed to mine if you have the claim to it. And you can see that guy's there and he has posted his claim. So I'm sure when he leaves, he'll take that back with him. I'm guessing, I don't know. But that also makes me think that all those metal cans that I saw in the next range over were maybe dating back to the gold rush. Is that possible? Maybe not. But, I mean, why else would there be just tons of people out in the mountains leaving behind tin cans? I mean, it's a pretty remote location where all those cans were, and it wasn't just a few, it was like littered. So, who knows? So for whatever reason, you can actually see the true color of the sun right now in the camera. It's this dark red color. It's even more radiant in real life. That just kind of almost looks like a laser pointer now, but the sun has this perfect red color to it. You can see the clear skies out there as the smoke cloud is working its way over me. I've still not yet smelled smoke from the fire, so I guess we'll wait and see when that comes. Right now, this is all higher up in the atmosphere. Another indication of how serious the fires are here. There's a fire hose connected to the fire hydrant already, and the wrench is just permanently set on top of it to be able to rock the valve if needed.
Not sure how visible it is, but the smoke is definitely here. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm not sure if it lowered down overnight or if it just came in overnight at a lower level, but this is the first time I can smell the smoke, or at least at some point last night it was.
So I came in yesterday from that direction. There's a campground down here where I got water last night, and then my map showed that there's a bridge across this river, but there is a bridge that's in construction, so I'm guessing the old bridge got destroyed. So last night when I was in the campground, I was thinking either I could stealth camp there or hike over to here. And so that bridge was closed off last night. Like, they had a truck parked in front of it. And so I figured, you know, I'm probably a lot better off sleeping on this side because construction workers do arrive to work early. And so I was seated over here getting up, and then I saw 3 pairs of headlights coming in this way through the smoke. And I was like, I bet they'll all stop there. And then they all stopped there at 5:40 a.m. And got to work by 6 a.m. And so, yeah, I guess it probably would have been fine, but with everybody working on that end of the bridge that's not even fully constructed, I'm pretty sure they would not have let me cross it. And so, anyway, I am now here. And then the only unfortunate thing is you cannot begin to appreciate how thick that bush is. So I can put it into perspective though. So it runs all the way along the river on this side only, and there are thorns on every one of those bushes that are just like vicious. I need water. I only have 1 liter of water. Today's hike is 28 miles. I don't see any additional water sources on that journey. That doesn't mean there won't be water. I think there will be water, but I cannot get to that river through those thorns. Like I just spent half an hour trying to get through the thorns any way I could. I would need a machete to get through that. I couldn't get through it. You could see my legs like are all, you can't really see, but they're all torn up from trying to get through this thorn. So anyway, I'm just glad I'm on this side of the river. And I'm pretty sure from yesterday, hiking in the other canyon, that I will be running across springs. But if I don't, then I do have the ability to turn all the way back and come all the way back down and then go talk to those construction workers. I just, you know, comparing all my options, I'd rather just hike ahead, and I assume I'll find a spring. I'm pretty sure I will. It's just, anyway, a funny pickle, but I'm so glad that I decided last night at 10 p.m. to cross that bridge and just camp on this side, because those 15 feet made all the difference. I'm pretty sure they would not let me walk across that bridge. I was able to get water out of here, and then I also discovered something kind of fun. The bush that I'm trying to get through is a blackberry bush, like truly a wild blackberry bush. They taste amazing and they're perfectly ripe. This is as many as I could fit in my hand. I didn't want to get in my bag to get a bag out. All right, so yeah, I just got my morning satellite update. So I just got my morning update on the fire conditions. The fire only grew by 15,000 acres since yesterday, which percentage-wise is tiny. That's really the key figure that I want to know each morning, because if the fire is already at 370,000 acres, and then it goes up to 385,000 acres, then if we imagine the fire is like this size, then it just kind of like spurted up and out somewhere. But it's not, I mean, percentage-wise, it looks the same today as it did yesterday, basically. It only grew a little bit. So, because it only grew a little bit, I don't even really need an exact update as to where it grew, because it was so incremental. So that means from yesterday to today, I'm good. And that's really the only way I'm going to get updates, is like once or twice a day. And it's going to be retroactive. Like, okay, well, what has happened? If I saw a doubling in the size of the fire, then I need to back out down this road and on out. So, as I already said, the Pacific Crest Trail is closed. Where I am going to right up here is going to be within just like maybe 1 or 2 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail. This road is not closed. None of these roads are closed. The only official closure for trails was the PCT. So my goal is to hike as close as I can to it. Yeah, just continue my way kind of roughly parallel to it while getting daily updates. Also, where I am is in the evacuation highest warning level zone, but it's not, there's no evacuation order in effect for this area. So if I get that update as well, then I would have to back out on the nearest exit point and then get out on whatever the nearest road is. So, that's pretty much it. The blackberries tasted good. It's hard to get any kind of fruit on trail. It's basically impossible to get fresh fruit on trail. And that's the first time I've picked fresh fruit from the vine on trail. I now understand why those bushes were so thorny. It's because those blackberries tasted so good. So that's the update from the morning. Just briefly zooming in to show you, the smoke is so thick that visibility is about half a mile. Normally I'd be able to look all the way back in through the canyon. But you can see, I can only see about 3 ridge lines back. You have a lot of wildfires when you have an air attack base for wildfires. There's some more of the attack helicopters. You can see they have their water baskets set out way in front of them, ready to take off. All right, it's 9 a.m. I'm just now leaving Chester. I guess my walk did start at 7 a.m. this morning to get back into the town. And I learned last night that in addition to the PCT closure, that Lawson Volcanic National Park is closed. So my original plan was to hike through the national park, kind of like cutting a corner to get up to Old Station. But since the park is closed, I now am planning to hike around it, which is adding like another 12 or so, maybe 15 miles. No, I think it's actually 20 miles added on to the hike. So exciting. Alrighty, I am now walking through hell. I would much prefer to be on the PCT. In fact, I would already be in Old Station if I could have hiked the PCT. I have the ability to monitor where the fire is. I have the ability to monitor where my escape routes are. And I have the ability to monitor evacuation orders, even when I don't have cell service, because I'm connected to the outside world by satellite communication and can get updates. There are other people on the trail who don't have those abilities or those inclinations to monitor their own safety, for whom it's actually a phenomenal idea to not be hiking on the PCT. I'm just gonna let it go. So instead, because of these closures, I am now not only detouring off the PCT, I'm detouring around the entire Larson Volcanic National Park. Oh my God. Which added 20 more miles onto my detour. And in what is the most depressing landscape I have ever seen in my life, in direct sun exposure. It's okay though. It is what it is. But if you can imagine, like PCT would have been straight ahead. Instead, I detoured over this way, forward, and then I detoured back towards the PCT because I'm taking whatever route I can. Bushwhacking, roads, train tracks, fire roads. And my goal is to detour as close to the PCT as I can. And so I was gonna hike through the Volcanic National Park, the Larson National Park, then it got closed. And one could say for good reason. Yeah, most people don't monitor the exact location of the fire, make their own forecast of the fire. I don't have the ability to hike large miles in a day. But I do all of those things. And I really wish I could hike the route that would for me be the safest. Anyway, here I am hiking through a mixture of Earth and Mars and the setting of Bambi. Look at this. So something that just crossed my mind that I figured I would, it's like occurring behind the scenes, but I could kind of put it on center stage, is the fact that I'm walking off in this direction and am not totally clear that there are any water sources ahead. There's a finite limit to how far I can walk before I would become so exhausted that it's kind of my point of no return. And so obviously somewhere before that, well before that, I would have to turn around and walk back the other direction, back to where there's a lake. And so anyway, I have a map that shows me where there are seasonal streams, springs, lakes. But as you can see out here, it's so crazy dry. And it's the first week of August, which is the hottest week in the year. So if there were ever a week where those sources would be dried up, it would be now. And if you want to talk about an area where it can be more difficult to find streams, it's a flat area. And this is certainly a flat area. So I remember when I was hiking in Shenandoah National Park, I, went on a rant about how I was passing through the park. It was a unusually dry year. There were no comments updated in the system for the last 6 to 9 months. And as a result, I hiked some 12 miles without drinking water. When otherwise, if people had updated the comments, that could have been avoided. And so I got all this critical feedback saying, you should just carry way more water all the time. And you shouldn't rely on these comments. If anything, you should have a paper map and just go looking for water. And so the purpose of my kind of little rant there was just more broadly just to talk about how if there's a system wherein we participate and benefit from it, but it also operates on our shared contribution to that system. For example, we all on some level benefit from public services and on some level contribute taxes to that system. We might disagree about what public services are necessary and how much we should contribute taxes. But I think it's fair to say that most people have chosen, to participate in society and are okay with that system because they see the advantages. And so if people wouldn't really take issue with me asserting that for government, then if they were informed on how this app works, they would have no issue with my point of critique here, and I think would see it to be valid. But I would go as far as to say that anybody challenging me on that, let me not say anybody, but over 90% of the people challenging me on that position are people who have never used the app that I was using. So on the one hand, they're saying, by God, why don't you use a map and compass and go look for water? And on the other hand, they themselves are guilty of the thing they're critiquing me for, which is to say, there are these other means of navigation. Why don't you use them instead? Well, if we flip it around, I'm using also a different form of navigation, and you're critiquing me for using it when you, presumably, have never used it, because your comments, when squared up against the app, don't really make any sense. And so, I don't know that I ever addressed this, but I in fact have used paper maps. I in fact have used compass to navigate. I've used line of sight navigation with bearing calculation and following my calculated bearing. I know the importance of using a map that has meridian lines for exact orientation, for compass orienteering. So it was an assumption on your part that I haven't used your technology pre-2000s. In fact, I have. I'm fairly well acquainted with it, with its joys, kind of like analog versus digital, but also its limitations, like analog versus digital. And so, on the flip side, you haven't used the app that I'm referring to, and yet here you are critiquing it. It's and then also what are the principles of your critique anyway? I suspect the principle of the critique is, well, this is what I'm used to using, and you're a slacker for not using it. So I'm certain that there are merchant marines turning over in their graves listening to you talk about using a compass and map who once navigated using the stars. So are you a slacker for not using the stars? I would argue no. I think that there are pros and cons to every form of technology, and the great advantage of improving technology is that it unlocks greater challenges that now become feasible with the assistance of these greater technologies. And so, to kind of turn things around again, in the 1970s, there was nobody pursuing or attempting a county or triple crown. That is a challenge that only really, not really, just factually, was first accomplished using GPS devices where you could tap a button and it would give you your numerical lat long, and then you could affix that lat long of your location on a paper map. That was what the first county or triple crowner used to complete it. And so these suggestions that I'm receiving are out of step with and out of touch with what it is that I'm trying to go for this year. But as I'm walking off into the distance with no exact knowledge of where the water sources are, certainly no community updated comments, and you know, genuine uncertainty as to whether or not there will be water up here, given that it's August 1st, I can't help but be reminded of the day when I was hiking in Shenandoah, went on that rant, and then received all this feedback that I think I never really addressed again. This was my first potential water source, and it's bone dry. I'm just pausing to note something that's kind of funny. When you're walking through the forest, the roads tend to wind around to avoid elevation gain and loss. And then the trees tend to obstruct your view. And this is officially the longest view I've had on a road going through a forest. If I had to guess, I'd say that's half a mile before the road maybe turns off to the left. Trail disappeared again. Well, the lake should be somewhere up here. Well, I found the lake. Unfortunately, the lake is not in season. Yeah, what are you guys' names?
I'm Brian.
Brian? Yeah. Phil?
Roy.
And Roy? Nice.
Yeah,
And
I'm the captain of the ship with these guys.
okay. When you say the ship, what do you mean?
Oh, fire engineer.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, he's out there too.
And so you're saying that there's a fire, some new fire or other
Yes,
fire?
Sir. The
yeah.
Park Fire's over this way.
Yeah.
It's over almost 400,000 acres.
Okay.
You know, just a week.
Yeah.
Right now we're preparing for a lightning.
So they create their own weather system. Once
okay.
huge fires start going, they create their own cell.
Yeah.
So it creates their own lightning, their own thunder, and their own winds. So like, say it's 20 miles an hour out here, in that active fire zone, it's probably going to be like 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
So that's what creates those huge pushes.
So it can create its own wind independent of the weather system. So if you see the prevailing winds blowing at 25, that's not even necessarily what's happening in the fire zone.
You know, some of these
it's so interesting.
You'll see lightning coming out of them.
Yeah.
You know, lightning and thunder, just internal.
Yeah.
You know, like huge, like tornadoes of lightning.
Yeah. Just because the phone sometimes struggles to pick up. I've seen it happen before. Yeah.
The weather pattern.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it creates its own weather system. You know, and that's when you get those huge 2,000-acre pushes in like an hour.
Yeah. And so you guys fight fires through this company all over the United States. Are you guys always on the same unit, or do you join together like kind of as independent contractors where there's a fire here and you guys meet each other for the first time, like for the California fire? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, just like that.
Okay.
We're all from different areas.
Yeah.
And we get that order, and it's like, hey, you're available, cool, let's meet up here, and then we'll get the resource order, do some logistics and head out.
Okay.
Some companies have a lot of more loyal people where they'll stay, but there's a lot of in and out. It's a consistent pool of firefighters, you know.
Okay. Because I'm used to seeing like the city fire truck, but now I'm realizing, oh, this is a fire truck that's behind you.
Yeah,
Yep.
This holds 500
Yeah, sure.
gallons
Yeah.
in it right here. We're ready to stay off 2 weeks at a time.
2 weeks at a time. Yeah. Wow.
This is like
Yep.
pack bags.
Yep.
This is our house.
Yep.
You know. This is our Sawyer's kit. So we got our chainsaws, our chaps.
Yep.
Axe, stuff to do. Burning fuel. These are drip torches, just in case we need to do a burnout off
Yep.
the road.
Yep.
So this is a foam pump. We don't really use it too much because it's very one, bad corrosive for the engine, but not very good for the environment, so we don't run that one too much. This is our pump that pumps the water.
You know what pressure that pumps at?
It runs at what?
Yeah, we can get about 250 psi with this pump. This is a Type 5 engine. We have 500 gallons, and it's more of a pressure than volume for this pump. That's the difference between this and the other Type 3 engines that you see. Usually they're like the real big, big green ones, you know, that you see. But this is enough to pump like, you know, a pretty good hose, like maybe quarter mile about. You know, anything more than that, you're going to use a Type 3 engine if you're trying to pump a mile or more.
Yeah.
You know, but this can...
And here, this is for sucking water.
Yeah, that's the sucking hoses right there.
Maybe if there's a creek or something.
How far out can you pull a hose from this truck? So if let's say you park it somewhere and the fire is like, you know, who knows how far away. How far could you go to put a fire out?
Yeah.
1,000 feet? Okay.
Yeah. Especially with 500 gallons. We can go 1,000 feet pretty easy.
Typically, it'll be about a day.
Yeah.
If we're going to cut, it's called indirect line.
Yeah.
So say the fire's maybe a mile that way, we'll start cutting line today. So that way when it comes, it's mellow.
And so like when you hit a fire like the Park Fire, I think people imagine like a tsunami hurricane of fire, and maybe it is like that, but from what you're describing also, it can be like just moving at like the bush level slowly or something, right? So is it more often the kind of like the stereotypical image of hell that it looks like, or is it more often like a slow moving bushfire?
We have ground fire, and then, you know, you have stuff that climbs, and then you have like running crown fire, depending. Have ground fire after that, and it can slam you like a wall.
Yeah.
We've had that in areas here in the past couple of years, you know, and it's all we can do is try to get dozers on it to cut line to bare mineral soil, and we can have them literally come out here and make highways, man, of just a bare dirt, pushing trees over everything out of the way.
Yeah.
And then,
sometimes we get stuck in
holy cow
in hell itself.
Can you airdrop me that video?
Yeah.
Okay.
You made contact with the T-centers. It's being evacuated.
This video won't show anybody else. Keep going, dude. Just fucking keep going.
I think that might have been them. That boat's gonna block the road.
It's rolling. It's gonna go into. This is crazy, Phil. Getting hot next door.
Wait, was this the Park Fire?
No, this was the McKinney Fire in the Klamath.
Okay. And sorry, where is that?
Just about 80 miles that way.
Yeah, that is crazy. That, and in my head, like looking at the fire, oh my god, I think I know that guy. Is that squirrel bait? Dude! Oh my god. Look at this. That was... I think I saw you wearing ultras. I saw footprints yesterday. Those must have been your footprints. Oh my god. I'm literally I'm filming right now. I'm interviewing these firefighters. Welcome. Oh my gosh.
But yeah. So pretty much in a bunch, that's what we do. And,
yeah.
Wish we could explain it better, but
no, you guys, yeah, I've had so many questions for so long, and it's just so cool to meet, just to meet you guys, but also just to like hear the answers from the real people fighting the fires. Yeah. So cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the interview again. Yeah. Alrighty, first footsteps back on the PCT. And now the sun's dropping out. That's the strange part, is that it's not visible, and then it just pops out beneath the clouds, whereas normally when the sun's setting, it doesn't just like plop out of the clouds like a raindrop falling to the ground.